brief intro for me. My name's Adam Ross. I'm the COO of Awin. And I've been at the company for about 15 years now, primarily based between our London and Berlin offices. And I'm responsible for managing our countries and some of our central departments. I've had a very interesting journey to Chicago this week. As Alex mentioned earlier, on Saturday I went to see the Champions League final in Madrid, which is basically the equivalent of the Super Bowl, where my team, Liverpool, won the cup. I had two... We've got some Spurs fans here. Get out. I had 2 hours sleep on Saturday and then flew to Chicago on Sunday. So I'm a little bit jet-lagged and a little bit tired, but the good news is that you're not really here to hear from me today, because we have a fantastic panel who I'm going to invite to come on stage right now to discuss innovation. So if we could have a big round of applause for our panel. We have Chris from Groupon, Mary Ellen from Jane, Mike from Monotote, Morgan from HP, and Toby from Intelligent Interfaces. So welcome to the stage. I also want to say that we want to try and make this panel as interactive as possible, whether that's between the panelists themselves, but also to give you guys in the audience a chance to contribute. So there's a number of ways you can do that. Nobody's done it yet so far, but via the app, if you go into the schedule, you can actually ask a question, and they're supposed to come up here on this iPad. So if you don't want to ask a question by microphone, then please do that via the app, or alternatively, raise your hand, and Sam will come around with a microphone. So, and please do that, because we want, the panel is for you, and we want you to take the opportunity to ask these experts anything you like. Okay, good. So just to get us started, the first question I want to ask is, well, we as a network, and I think as an industry, we like to think of the affiliate channel as a fertile ground for innovation, as a place where both small businesses, technology companies, and large businesses can experiment, can try different things. And we see a lot of that in all of our different markets. But what I'd like to ask the panelists is that something that you recognize? Is that something that you feel? And I'd be very interested to hear your opinion on that. So we could start with, who wants to take it to start off?
I can go if you want.
Go for it, Chris.
I just want to point out, it feels like we're in a band. I think we're going to stand up and do a song.
At the end, we're going to burst into song.
Well, I think actually something I wrote in the Awin report, which is quite interesting, was around, I think, being able to work with really agile publishers and affiliates and being able to pretty quickly change and create moments, ideas, creative campaigns, and do things that might take more established businesses a lot longer to achieve, and also maybe with set budgets and everything else on the brand side, it's harder for maybe wider businesses and industries to be able to innovate as quickly as some of the sort of campaigns that I've seen over recent years.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to?
Is this on? Yep. Just to add to that, we're a very young technology company, and we sit on site, which is a little different from maybe some publishers in the space driving traffic to site. So I think what it's been is a great enabler for us, the affiliate channels, to really get access to brands. Procurement typically is pretty tricky, and also the integration process, so using master tag to actually get our JavaScript into on site for advertisers quickly has been really advantageous to accelerating conversations for us.
Great. I mean, actually, one thing I forgot to do is it might be worth just doing a brief introduction for everybody, and you can tell us all about your different businesses and how you're integrating with the channel.
Shall I go?
So go ahead.
Might
You've got the
give some
microphone,
context.
so go
So
for it.
Intelligent Interfaces is a platform offering intelligent recommendations and driving confidence with consumers through a series of questions, which essentially emulates an experience you might have with a brick-and-mortar store assistant, and then providing context around why a recommendation is good for them and building around that social proof to essentially increase conversion for advertisers.
Great.
So Morgan Shimmy, I oversee acquisition and retention marketing for the store at hp.com, or the direct-to-consumer arm of HP. And I think for us on the brand side, there's a lot more expectation around affiliate than there was like 3 or 4 years ago. It's not just about driving traffic. It's not just about driving qualified traffic. It's about actually getting the conversion. And I think the technology that you guys bring to the table and a lot of the people in the room bring to the table to get it on the site, to make the navigation a little bit easier for the end consumer, to put the right product in front of them at the right point in time, et cetera, et cetera. I think all those types of elements are much more of what we're looking for in partners now and moving ahead. I think the days of love cash back, we'll continue to give cash back, we'll continue to give points, but the days of that being the majority of the affiliate ecosystem, I think there's just been a bit of a tectonic shift in the last year or two with what brand expectations are. And so a lot more experimentation and a lot more of leading partners, leading technology partners coming and being able to help us along the journey.
Great, and Mike?
All right. I'm Mike. I'm the founder and CEO of Monotode. We're a distributed e-commerce provider. In core in itself, we're an e-commerce technology company. And we bring the retailer's web shop to the online visitor on a publisher's website. So, again, sorry, what was the question again, Adam? Because I'm a little confused now.
We'll just keep it as an intro for this
Okay.
one, and then I'll get back into the
skip
questions.
this one.
I'm Mary Ellen Garaski, and I run the affiliate channel at jane.com. Yeah, that's my intro. All right.
That should be a quick one for Chris.
Yeah. And I'm Chris Johnson. I worked in affiliate marketing for about 15 years, but I was a VoucherCloud employee in the UK, and we were acquired by Groupon about 12, 14 months ago. And now I work on the coupon side for Groupon globally.
Great. And one question already has come in from the audience, which is, there are lots of really interesting tech partners emerging in the affiliate channel. How do you see a SaaS commercial model work through the affiliate channel where all parties benefit? Maybe that's a good one for you, being a tech partner in the channel.
Great question.
Yeah.
So we've been kind of trying to work that out. We typically, if we were outside of the affiliate channel, we would be operating an implementation SaaS monthly and then a kind of CPA model. But we see it as a great opportunity to both allow advertisers to kind of test and learn, and us too. We're a growing business. We're trying to make our way and understand where we fit in, especially into this ecosystem. So I would be interested to see what Awin might come up with. We talked about it before we came on stage here, but yeah, I think it's a challenge, but we're working on the CPA model purely to get traction and try and move forward. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, we'll see. Maybe we can influence, where that goes in terms of the commercial model you guys come up with.
Absolutely. Okay, so just to very clearly define what SaaS is, software as a service. So traditionally, publishers were always operating on a CPA basis, and now that we're seeing the introduction of other technology partners into the mix, sometimes the CPA is not the most appropriate monetization mechanism for those partners, and something that's more akin to a software as a service model where people are paying on a fixed fee is more appropriate and might provide the scale that these partners need. So, question for Morgan, as a sort of enterprise level advertiser, do you find that the affiliate channel is a good place to experiment with technologies like this, and is that supported by the wider business?
Yeah, I think I'm going to call out RevLifter, who's here, and we're very early in our journey with them, but they operate a technology that helps with conversion kind of later in the cart and helps improve overall cart size. And for us, it is still CPA. It's not purely SaaS. Austin will correct me later if I'm totally wrong about the billing model. But for that, I think there's a couple different pieces, right? Like, it's not just coming in and getting the PO through and selling somebody something. Like, I feel like at the enterprise level, to have success, the vendor really has to entrench themselves in our business, because it's not just me on the marketing team, it's the merchandising team, it's the content team, it's the category team that defines the discounts. It's like you really have to kind of immerse yourself in that company and understand their business and realize this isn't one of 50 clients, right? This is like one of 10 clients that you're going to really have to put your skin in the game over the next 6 months to get up and running. But once you're in and you've got your claws in their system, like it's pretty hard as a brand. It's pretty hard to shake a partner that's working. But I think it's really around the upfront investment, and I think what we look for in particular out of this channel is really around incrementality and making sure that if you're bringing a technology partner to the table, that they have a testing plan that not just they believe in, but that you believe in as well when it comes to proving, incremental ROI. And I think that's probably one of the bigger challenges that we have in bringing in third parties is like them having the overall common sense to come with a model that actually pans out as being incremental, where everybody, all the stakeholders align on it. But like I said, I think those types of partners are what are really going to move our business, and I think a lot of other, direct e-com businesses ahead.
But what about this idea that some of these technology partners are now actually affecting the way the customer, transacts through the site? They're sort of going beyond what a traditional affiliate does, and they're now impacting the user experience. And therefore, there might be other teams in the business that have an interest in that or have a say in that. Is that an issue for you guys?
I think what we see more often than not is we'll bring in a third-party technology and it'll start working, and then we start looking at what we're paying them, and then inevitably somebody's like, well, couldn't we just build this? It's like, we could build it, it'll take a year, it'll cost money, and by the time we have a replication of the existing solution on our site, they've been investing in R&D on the last year, and they're already on version 2.x of the product, and then we're going to have to spend another year to catch up with 2.x. So I think you do start to intrinsically get into the build-buy conversation when other people start to see, hey, this is working, we could build our own team and do this, or we could just buy the technology outright, whatever the case may be. So it's a bit of a slippery slope.
Interesting. Anybody else have any comments on that? Maybe
ditto. Every conversation I've ever had has been a developer like, well, we can make that ourselves. We can make that ourselves. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So let's see, we have another question here. Are you at all concerned that when you have on-site partners that are compensated via affiliate, that the affiliate partners who have been driving traffic and are losing those commissions will stop sending the traffic?
I'll pick that one up. So I have a legendary bias to content builders and social influencers because that's where I got my start in the space. So attribution is becoming increasingly popular. Insights into the data, last click attribution is and should be going away because it's not fair. A lot of the times the content builders and the social influencers are driving those first clicks, and then the customer is learning about this widget and this gadget by doing some searches online or on site, doing some internal searches, and then their cookies being overridden. That's old tech, honestly, and it should be going away. Unfortunately, it's the tech that our program has now, but we're moving away from that, hopefully sooner rather than later, because we need to make sure that my favorite category of publisher is protected. So, yeah, it needs to happen, and it should happen quickly.
Yeah, I got something to add to that. So the distributed e-commerce also enables instant checkout on publishers' websites. So before even a cookie needs to be dropped, there can already be a transaction. So that's, I think, solves a lot of things as well for publishers and about inspiration, and you can immediately transact what you see. So I think that's plays in this too as well.
And that's an interesting point. So if the transaction's no longer taking place on the advertiser site, does that cause other problems internally, or this sense that the advertiser wants to own the end-to-end journey? How is that going to play out as these universal checkouts become more popular? Or are these universal checkouts going to become more popular? Who wants to have a look at that one?
Can I just add to the previous bit of attribution? So I think as an on-site solution, we are working towards keeping that traffic coming, because it only serves to provide us more opportunity to actually interact with customers and help to generate incrementality and growth for the advertiser. So I think that we, well, talking from our position, we'd want to find a way that everybody can continue to be in the transaction and get rewarded appropriately so that it's shared rather than it being just flipped to the on-site solution, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So universal checkouts and how does that work for you internally?
So I can't speak to universal checkout. I would say it's synonymous with marketplaces for me, for where we are in our overall journey right now. I think that's probably one of the biggest, it's probably a question later on. That's probably one of the biggest tectonic shifts, because I think there's something to be said for convenience, right? And like, let's just call the world equal. And half of journeys start at Amazon and half of journeys start on Google. The ability to go ahead and have an end-to-end transaction in either one of those ecosystems, where the brand still gets the financial benefit in the short term and the long term, I think is the balancing act that I think a lot of brands are looking for right now. Like, we know we have to play with Amazon, we know they're a frenemy. We know we have to play in Google because so much starts there. Obviously, in the influencer networks, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, what have you, YouTube. For us, for right now, the big challenge is we're in Google Shopping Actions and transactions are happening there. And as of right now, we still own that customer. We still get their email address. We can still, hit them over the head with emails until they re-up and purchase something else from us. But at any given point in time, Google can change their policy. And then what do? Do we walk away from this big bucket of revenue because we don't get the LTV? So it's challenging, and I think there's a lot of bumps and wrinkles, and I think the marketplaces are just going to grow in influence over time, and particularly within this industry, the overall rev share component of affiliate is going to continue to grow in importance. And I think a lot of those questions and answers are things that we're going to have to come to, the advertisers and the publishers together, whether it's the Googles or the Amazons of the world.
Anyone, any other comments on marketplaces, which came up there?
Then we go again about the instant checkout. So Instagram, for instance, just launched something that's actually also instant checkout on their app, which I think is good, because I think everything that takes out friction is better for the end user experience. I think it works. I mean, of course, from Monotone we see what happens, but I think last week there was something that went out, a press release from Adidas, that they had 40% more sales because of that, and I think Deutsche Bank said it will be adding like crazy $10 billion to their revenue in the next 2 years if this would be rolled out further. So. I think if you look at marketplaces, I think the publishers will be marketplaces in the future.
Interesting. Anyone else? What about you from a marketplace perspective? What's your view on
Marketplaces is where it's at.
Yeah.
No kidding. Jane is a marketplace, so that was a joke. Sorry. I had an interesting question this morning. It's like, what do you do to compete against Amazon as, the big marketplace elephant in the room? And the answer to that question is take care of your customer, give them lots of choice, and make sure they have a great experience. So I find that question kind of confounding, because it's like, you don't have to compete against Amazon for everyone. You just have to find who your customer is and take care of them. It's a simple answer. It's not an easy solution, but it's a simple answer.
Any other questions from the audience? Oh, we've got someone here, but does anybody want to ask anything with the microphone? Or should I take one from here? Are you doing any cross-promotions with other advertisers or publishers on webinars that are seeing good results?
We do a weekly giveaway with other advertisers. It's run outside of our affiliate program, but it's a great revenue driver and a great new acquisition channel for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a trend that we're seeing, that there are now, the affiliate partnerships are so much more than what they were traditionally, and they can be between cross-advertiser, they can be between tech partner advertiser, tech partner publisher, so certainly a trend we're seeing. What about you, Morgan?
I don't think we do anything quite how you define it. I think we're getting to do, We'll do promotions. I mean, we obviously operate within the technology space, so the idea of somebody getting a $1,500 laptop, in exchange for posting something on Facebook, whatever the case may be. So there's some activity like that that's happening. We'll do sweepstakes and contests infrequently. Just the logistics and getting those types of things up and running are pretty significant. We do have larger strategic partnerships where we, like PayPal, for example, where we have PayPal Finance. And so there's a lot of cross-promotion that'll take place with the PayPal audience. I think that's where we are finding, and the big challenge, honestly, with like something like that, or like we've done co-promotion or cross-promotion with Bing, comes down to the tracking. And sometimes if you're not on the same tracking platform, it's hard for them to go back and say, hey, we did this promotion with HP and this is what we got out of it. It's hard for us to go back and say, hey, we did this promotion with PayPal or Bing, this is what we got out of it. So having a really solid tracking solution in place actually is, it can kind of build or break successful partnerships and incent or disincent the broader business from wanting to do those kinds of things again. I think it's really hard to have you talk to different partners, whether it's a travel partner where, people take their laptops with them when they go travel. So should we do something with Booking.com because they're on Awin's platform? It's like we talk about it and they've got, millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions, I don't know, in their email database, and they're on Awin, and maybe we could do something really cool together. It tends to get kind of throughout the process something that starts as a grand ambition. By the time you get to executional mode, is kind of like, And so I think more often than not, you kind of walk away from it. It's tough. Like doing co-promotion with other brands is challenging. So sweeps and stuff like that with editorial partners is like low effort. We tend to see pretty high returns on those types of efforts in particular, actually. Some of the best ROI that we do is product reviews that turn into sweepstakes or giveaways.
Chris,
That's something that we, I guess from a publisher perspective, is very, we're able to facilitate cross-promotions and do multiple promotions or one big promotion for multiple brands who may be complementary to each other. So I think some good examples would be maybe if someone takes out like an NFL weekend pass, we know they're going to be in for the weekend, so actually we can then follow up with offers for food-to-go brands, maybe Uber Eats or that other stuff. So we can actually, the idea for us is to pitch these campaigns to the multiple brands and obviously work with them to drive maybe associated revenue, which is again potentially innovative in terms of its value to the user and actually the value that we can then drive in terms of creating demand and understanding that there are people that might be interested. There is a synergy between, let's say, live sport and food. If you're you've bought a PlayStation or something for the weekend, then why wouldn't we hit you up with food vouchers as well? There's all these other things that we can do and we can come to brands with that is slightly, I guess, the storytelling angle that we talked about earlier is something where I think the publisher can add some real value.
Yeah, so from a tech perspective, what we're doing is working together with brands, like for instance with Lowe's Hotels. They have their own blog where they have also activated our technology on. So let's say I'm reading something about Miami, and then you can book the restaurant through, I forgot the name of the app, but where you book all the restaurants.
OpenTable?
OpenTable, yeah, sorry. So the OpenTable card comes to the blog, or car rental, a card will open up there. So you can do everything there. That's also promotion and brands helping each other. Of course, we're not in the marketing, but technology-wise, that's things that we do already.
Okay, cool. So what challenges have you encountered over the past 12 months that you were able to overcome through innovation?
One thing to add. So just regarding that, the only sort of connection I can draw there is speaking with aggregator sites. So in the insurance space, for example, where multiple insurers are available, but sitting within a site that aggregates traffic to then offer up recommendations, there would be a place we might sit to operate as a partnership with another publisher.
Okay, cool. So what challenges have you encountered over the past 12 months that you were able to overcome through innovation? And what was the solution and result?
Sounds like an exam question. I can kick it off. I guess, especially with, the previous 12, 14 months, one of the biggest challenges that we constantly get is how we add value to brands, how we add, and as we talked about earlier, incrementality, how do we meet advertiser KPIs so that we're still seen as adding value, as innovating, as doing things that are keeping that brand partnership engaged and fruitful. So we've had to really invest in anti-discounting measures. So we've looked at anybody and brands that are maybe discount averse. We've looked at ways in which we can work with them. So we built Vouchshot has a gift cloud proposition, which is digital gift carding, which actually means we can run offers and create our own content that enables brands to maybe get 2 transactions out of a particular journey, so actually we can get them to spend more as well. So actually there's different qualifying ways in which we've innovated in the last 12 months, which we will roll out, and also how we can syndicate our content further so that actually we're getting relevant audiences and we're driving, like you say, moments and the right messages and the right content to the right publications or editorial streams and so on. And also when you've got things like mobile pushes and apps and creating that kind of campaign and that multi kind of campaign that touches a number of different elements is very different to a typical, I guess, coupon journey.
I'd add to the mobile bit. We're a mobile-first company, albeit more interaction with engines on desktop, and so using the kind of browsing function that people often have mobile for, and then offering up an email me this for recommendations to bring them back across to desktop to go and transact thereafter has been a successful bit that we've added to our technology.
Anyone else want to tackle that one?
Yeah, so the question was the 12 months, what's
what's
innovation?
Exactly, what have you done in the last 12 months?
So for us, it's what's really, I think, good, and it's like not the last 12 months because we launched in the UK, I think, 3 months ago. That's for us was a really important thing. There was the Awin Master Tag. It would be normally it takes a longer time to get our include code on publishers' websites, and this really helps us to scale faster because of that. So I think the growth. Now we're launching this as well for so everybody knows. If you're an Awin publisher and you have the Master Tag installed. From today on, you can flip a switch in the dashboard, and you can start using Monotone. So for us, that's really important.
Morgan?
I mean, I think for us, there's been we've obviously, like any business, we're focused on revenue. But I think over the course of really the last 18 months, we've become increasingly focused on bottom line, on margin dollars and operating profit. And I think the idea of just, hey, buy anything that HP sells, like that's cool. We like selling stuff. But there's obviously certain areas where we make a lot more profit than others. And I think figuring out how to sell the most profitable products and do it well and do it at scale has been probably one of the bigger challenges that we've had. And I think for that, we've really gone in and identified specific products that we really want to push. And then it's not just blanketing every single publisher out there with the same offer for the same product. It's like really understanding, a lot of the publishers in this room, they've got really defined personas that are visiting their sites and like, hey, this product, or this handful of products is gonna resonate really well with this publisher's personas, and we'll strike, individual deals with some of those individual publishers because we see that the yield from, $10,000 here on this product, on this placement, versus $50,000 on the HP portfolio, I can make much more money in the long run off of that $10,000 investment for the business. And so I think we've gotten to be a lot more scientific, and I think what we've seen in tandem is publisher capabilities on reporting back to us, not only about the personas that we're going after, but about success metrics after the fact. Who are the people that actually purchased our products, and is our persona targeting? Do we know our customers as well as we think we know our customers? And so there's a lot of like great information sharing that's happened, and I think this channel. Somebody was yelling at us not that long ago about like, well, we're doing too much discounting and we need to reduce the discounts in affiliate. And I'm like, affiliates profitability is up 50% year on year, so why don't you go back and do whatever it is you do? So it's great. We've had a lot of success with Awin and Austin, who runs this stuff day to day, who's rock star, best hire I've made ever. it's good. I think the industry is getting to be a lot more scientific and a lot more data driven than they were a couple years ago.
Jane is actually was looking at some numbers just last week, but we're 88% mobile. So 88% of our transactions year to date taking place on a mobile device, our iOS app being the lion's share, followed by mobile web, Safari specifically. If you're a woman under 35 years of age and have 2.3 kids and have an iPhone in your hand, you probably shop on our site. And then Android app. So we had a gap where we were not commissioning our publishers in our app environment. And so it was a 2-year journey on our part to get that worked. At the time, we were on 2 networks, and we just couldn't get them to play together. So I surveyed our publishers, very informal survey, and by and large, our content, like I said, bias, I'm not going to deny it. Our content and social influencers were like, well, ShareASale is where we would promote you. So we came exclusive over to ShareASale and now are paying our affiliates in app. So being on top of those kinds of things, having a thumb on their pulse to make sure you're taking care of them. When ITP happened, of course, Safari is our biggest browser, wanted to make sure that we took care of that so that the cookie was being honored. So, yeah, those were our biggest hurdles in the last 12 months, but it took us a couple years of planning and coordinating, and shout out to Chris over there, love you. And but it's helped because now I have publishers coming up to me and saying, I promote you because we are paid in app, and I don't promote your competitors because they do not.
Mm-hmm. That's a really important point as well about getting the basics right. So that publishers are rewarded for the traffic they're sending. We see it so often. Programs not set up properly or not technically capable of tracking all journeys. And this is just basic stuff, and it's a big deterrent for most publishers when that doesn't happen. But there's a question for you actually from the audience. Outside of coupon sites, how are you recruiting your best content sites? Do you have an influencer program, and has it been revenue positive?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a team of 4. Angie and I, if you're in our affiliate program, you know both of us. And then we have 2 influencer people that work with our influencers who work with them outside of our affiliate channel. We really take it on a case-by-case basis to find out what would be best for both parties. We have a lot of publishers who promote us through ShareASale because their audience is very engaged. They like our model. We have a very high conversion rate. We promote and we pay in app. And then there are other publishers where it wouldn't be to their benefit to promote us in our affiliate channel, but it's our benefit to promote and to partner with them. So we want to make sure that both parties are benefiting, because that's how you, and I think someone said it earlier on stage, that when you build a relationship, when it's a win-win, then all good things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Great.
Did I answer the question?
Hope so.
Okay.
Can't tell with these anonymous ones. Okay, so does anybody want to ask a question from the audience before we continue to the next one? Great. Got one over here.
Yeah, just following on what Morgan said, actually, I think it's what I find really interesting is the fact that an enterprise like HP is potentially like 5 or 6 different companies, and selling into, I think the experience of selling into an enterprise has to be really different to a normal retailer, because you've got 5 different people, and what you were talking about before about the fact that you've got like all these personas, and they're completely different. The people that buy gaming stuff, the people that are business, the people that buy supplies, these kind of customers don't meet each other, so you have to come up with like a really bespoke approach. And I think it's really interesting that publishers should approach enterprises in a totally different way, because it's potentially like 5 clients essentially, and they need that level of detail and depth. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, yeah, you've got the gaming audience, you've got the mom at home audience, you've got the kids at school audience, you've got the small business audience, you've got medium-sized companies that are doing large format printing. So I'm selling everything from $13 mice to $10,000 printers on a website. And so, when we make an investment in a technology partner, or really any kind of third partner, we want to make sure that they can facilitate as many of those different personas and as many of those different need states as possible. Mm-hmm. If you can only satisfy the gamer audience, like, that's pretty good, and like maybe it'll get you all the way through. But if you can satisfy, multiple audiences, multiple personas, multiple stakeholders on our side of the house, it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, I mean, selling into a big enterprise is just getting through procurement. I mean, it takes. We've been working with. There's a vendor who I won't name, and it's taken them lots of dinners, lots of red wine, and about 3 years. And now they're in and they're working, and it's working better than what we were doing previously. But it takes a long time. So I think things like the container tag and being able to bring new partners up to speed very quickly and to prove it out in a proof of concept phase, like those little things that can give vendors the edge, go a really long way. It's much easier to go ahead and get something like that up and running than to deploy a whole new tag and go through cybersecurity and go through our own ecosystem, our own infrastructure. So,
good. Any other questions? Okay, good. So I want to ask you guys how important personalization is in your channel strategy. And we spoke a little bit about it earlier in Sri's presentation this morning. And then we've obviously also heard about how regulation is changing, and we've certainly been through that in Europe with GDPR and upcoming e-privacy. And there's this sort of juxtaposition between consumers wanting a more personalized experience, but what we see from regulators and what we see what browsers are doing as a response to consumer concern about how data is being shared and used. And these two things are sort of working in opposition to each other. So I'm curious to understand, what are you guys doing in personalization, and what's your view on how you can embrace that despite the changes in regulation?
Well, the cool thing about at least the California Act is not that it prevents you from collecting data. It just, you have to give it away. I mean, you have to purge it if they don't want it, since it's an opt-out. So you can still collect the data. And like I've said before, I mean, it's cyclical. Good data leads to a great customer experience, which leads to them providing you with more data, which provides to an even better customer experience. And it's ironic, isn't it, that customers want a personalized experience, but they don't want to give you the information in order to provide it to them? Mm-hmm. So you just provide a great experience so that they don't want to opt out. Hey, I'm going to fill out this form for Jane. I'm going to put in my birthday so that eventually they can say, hey, happy birthday. Have you, bought yourself something? You deserve it too, Mom. So if you provide them with a great experience, they're going to let you keep the data. I mean, just take care of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for us, it's a little different because we are a shopping cart on a publisher's website. So once a product in an image or a video is chosen and clicked, then we bring the shopping cart up. But our technology is built to basically give the same experience in the shopping cart for Monotote. Well, it's not a Monotote; it's always a branded retailer shopping cart, as it would be on their own web shop. So for us, it starts late. After the person gave us the information or chose a specific product, and then we can. There's a personalization and recommendation. There's a big difference, I think. For us, it's not that important, but probably for HP it is.
Is it not obvious?
I'm going to take a pass on
We call that a hospital pass.
I'm going to take a pass. That's why the mic went this way when you asked it.
I'll chime in a little with, obviously, personalization's very important to us and what we do, but with personal data in mind, we're actually entirely anonymized unless otherwise kind of instructed by a client and then fit very much within their frameworks to obviously meet with whatever data protection in any jurisdiction they sit. So, yeah, I think it's something we're remaining aware of and how the rules are changing and adhering to those.
Mm-hmm. I think I'd only echo that, personalization or relevance really in terms of as you mentioned about user experience, it is putting the user first and understanding exactly what they are looking for, understanding how to give them the best journey, the best experience, and tailoring your campaigns, your emails, your pushes, everything else that you want to do that is completely in their interest is really important. And I'm no data expert, but you need that data to be able to really fine-tune those journeys, and that's not something that's going to, I think, slow down by any means.
So one question here from the audience. Affiliate marketing needs to embrace data-driven marketing. How can affiliate marketing work with other data sources like Adobe or LiveRamp, and even the weather to create great customer experiences?
I mean, I can say for us that we do look at our marketing partners pretty closely, and I think, LiveRamp is a good example, as is Adobe, the notion of sharing audiences. So for example, with Intel, we can go ahead and identify people who visited Intel.com and look specifically at the gaming section of Intel. They'll go ahead, they'll take their first-party data, they'll effectively put it into LiveRamp, and we'll be able to go ahead and target that audience with display. And so I think that approach is very applicable throughout different industries, and I think it's just a matter of getting through like security and privacy, et cetera, and having formal agreements. But I also think that platforms like Adobe and LiveRamp are building a lot of functionality with these types of partnerships and these types of opportunities in mind, because realistically, there's only so many customers that are in market at any given point in time. And being able to identify them sometimes takes more than one brand can do on their own. And so in a situation like that, where we benefit from selling a product and Intel benefits from us selling a product with Intel inside, if there's a mutually beneficial relationship, I feel like there's ways to make the data work. But there's only a handful of like really well-utilized tech stacks that enable it, and Adobe and LiveRamp, I think, are probably the two primary ones, the two that we leverage pretty extensively. And we're doing a lot more of this kind of thing, and it's showing some promise out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really valuable for even for, we talked about new customers, we talked about how, what can coupon sites offer, or what can these big publishers offer, and actually if it's new customers you're looking for, it's a great way to actually say, look at the database and say, hey, actually you've got a ton of new customers or customers that could be our customers that we don't have, and then what can we do to create that? And that's not an uncommon way of working with retailers.
Yeah, I think, and that it cuts both ways, right? Like, hey, show me people who are HP customers that we might not know about, and let's not put anything in front of these guys. And so it's, I think making media dollars more effective than they've ever been before is something that all of the senior-most people in organizations are asking for. That's why a lot of agencies are being done away with, and people are insourcing, so on and so forth. Like, everybody wants more from their media dollar, and smarter data and smarter targeting is what's going to enable that. And it's becoming an increasing necessity. Budgets tend to be getting smaller, and expectations tend to be getting larger of late.
Mm-hmm. And another question for me is, brands get a lot more data through the network than publishers do. What data do you think it is reasonable for publishers to ask for? So maybe a question for the brands. What are you comfortable sharing?
I am comfortable sharing whether it was a new customer or return customer. I'm comfortable sharing whether it was mobile or desktop, whether it was app or web. I'm comfortable. We have select partners that we send what we call an order detail report to. And it started, I don't know if she's here, but Sarah with A Thrifty Mom was the first to ask me for such a report. And this was several years ago. And she's like, the challenge that I have in promoting Jane is that I can go into my Amazon, oh my gosh, I almost forgot their name, my Amazon dashboard, and I can see what my customers have purchased instantly. So I know when when I can hit it when the iron's hot, and I don't have that benefit in promoting Jane. And so we developed a report where we can go in and we can pull all the SKUs and everything that, SKUs is a relevant term in our world, but we can pull all the products that that affiliate has sold, and then we send her that in a pivot table. And Sarah, and now we're sending it to a couple of dozen each week, so we can show them, you might be promoting this, but your customers are buying this. Because what I see is a tendency, and it's what I did when I was a content builder, is I would promote the things that I like. Oh, could I see that in my house? Would I buy that? Would I give that as a gift? Well, that's the problem, is though your customers and your blog readers and your social followers like you and respect you, they aren't always a carbon copy of you. So if you deliver what they actually are interested in, you'll see better conversions. So ask me what your customers are buying, because I can tell you, because I know. Mm-hmm. I know what they're buying, and here's what they're buying, and now go forth and promote that stuff.
Good. Anyone else? Okay. Any questions from the audience before we go into the next one? Simon.
How can commission rates go up?
Send me customers.
No, I guess it relates to the idea that as commission rates go down, and as some retailers view not paying commissions on certain products, etc., there's a problem, because obviously the networks make their override, and the affiliates need to reinvest back into their businesses, etc., and it truly becomes a race to the bottom, right? So how can commission rates go up? If I was on the panel, I'd say obviously if you can link your activity to incrementality, that's a great way to do it. But what do you guys think?
Okay, so here's a strategy that's really not traditionally shared with publishers, and I might get hogtied because of this. If you see a program with a low commission, they are usually baking in a commission increase for their VIPs, or a bonus structure, or something. They are running off of a blended cost. And so I'm going to keep the commissions low for 90% of my publishers who, A, don't engage with me, they don't reply to my emails, they ignore me. You know what? They can keep the low commission, because they're sending maybe 30% of my traffic, 40% of my traffic. These other 10% of publishers who are engaged, who respond, who are in my Facebook group, who talk to me about, hey, how can I build SEO? How can I do this? How can I brand? How can I drive more customers to you by acquiring new customers to me? Who brainstorm strategies with us? I can tell you they're not at my baseline. So if you see an advertiser with a low commission rate, it's actually encouragement to you to reach out, because I can tell you they're working on a blended cost that they're not telling anyone about except the publishers they have relationships with.
Yeah, I mean, I think you really have to, I think the onus is somewhat on the publisher, to be honest with you. I think there's a couple different components. A tiered commission rate where you're hitting a certain revenue threshold. And once you hit that threshold, there's graduated commission structure. And that forces publishers to put a lot of their skin in the game and to give us a lot of value add that we might not otherwise get. So I'd say that would be one component of it. I think if you know our business well, you understand where our problem areas are. And like mobile, for example, let's just say that we follow the industry trend and mobile converts at a third to half of what desktop converts at. Help me close more of the mobile traffic. Bring me something that I can do on mobile that I can't do with somebody else. So I think it's those types of components. Or, hey, what are the products that, like, if there was 3 products that I could sell the hell out of for the next 2 months for you, and you doubled my commission, what would those 3 products be? And like just really understand the business. And obviously part of that is having a good rapport with the brand on the other side. But I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution, to be honest. But like you have to ask the question and engage in the dialogue. You can't come and command it. Because we've seen it. Like we have to do an across-the-board commission increase, or we're going to cut you from the program, or we're going to deactivate you in the toolbar, or whatever the case may be. And like that doesn't sit well, and I think it breeds a lot of animosity, and that's not a great way of doing it. Like I think we're all in the business to make more money together, and so I think a lot of it is just having dialogue. And if you've got somebody smart on the other end of the negotiating table, they're going to work with you to figure out something that works well. Everybody's got to walk away feeling like they're getting a deal, right?
Can I ask a follow-up to that? For when you are doing like increased commissions on just one suite of products, or you're not commissioning on some products and commissioning on others, what are the tactics that you've seen to get publishers to push the products that to get publishers to push the products that you are commissioning on in a way that actually gets the user to buy them? Because oftentimes I see that the users we send, it doesn't really matter what products we're posting about as long as we're linking out to that retailer, and the users we send are often not necessarily buying the products that we're actually converting them on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the brand's overall strategy for promoting that product. If there's something that they can do where it's a bundled offer or something like that, like, hey, buy during this time period and get this free gift, something like that. So I think it's really around how the brand is structuring the actual offer itself. That is probably the biggest single challenge. I also think the landing environment that you're pushing to can be a big component of that, driving to a targeted landing page versus a page that has a bunch of individual products on it. You know, you strip out the top nav. There's things that a savvy brand can do with the landing environment to really make it hard for the customer to navigate away from the product that brand is trying to promote. So I think that, you know, it's a multifaceted approach, but a lot of the onus is on the brand. I'm not going to say like that we should just expect that publishers, if I say, hey, I just need you to sell this SKU and nothing else, it's not how it's usually going to happen without the brand putting a lot of effort forth to steer the customer.
Okay, so I think we only have 5 minutes left, is that right? 2:45? But a question just to follow up from this morning's keynote, which had some really interesting elements to it. But do you see any opportunity within voice and AR, some of the exciting things that Sri presented this morning, and how that might somehow link with the affiliate channel, or maybe not, just as an inspirational end question?
So, I like AR. AR is cool. It was cool when Burger King did it for their dollar menu 10 years ago. QR codes were cool when Microsoft came out with them 10 years ago. I don't know where they're going to go. Maybe it's because I'm old. Maybe it's because I'm a guy. I don't know. Some of the applications just don't seem like, it seems cool and like fun, but I don't know, like every day my use of AR is probably a little far out in my mind because it's the second or third incarnation. I think voice, on the other hand, is probably a little bit more attainable. You know, people use it on a day in, day out basis, whether it's Alexa in the home, whether it's your Android device. I think the migration of voice from being this kind of cylinder that sits in the kitchen to having something that has a screen on it, something that's in your pocket, something that's integrated into your television, quickly becoming integrated into your car. I think voice holds a lot of great promise. I think particularly for, God, it's like you custom catered this question for me. I think particularly for low consideration products. Hey Google, buy me more HP ink. Okay, cool, we can do that. You know, those types of things, I think that's very much in the real, and that's happening now, right? These are not like pie in the sky. You know, you can be on a chairlift in Park City and you can order ski gloves and they can deliver it to your hotel in 48 hours or 24 hours if you have Prime now. You know, and I think the next evolution and where, you know, a lot of brands that are technology brands is the devices that talk back to your voice-activated device. So, for example, HP printers, when you're running low on ink, we're pretty close to this coming to fruition. Let's say you're at your 10% ink level. You come in and there's a little alert on your Google screen and that says your printer's at 10% ink, and you can tap a button to buy more right there. Or you can say, okay, Google, buy me more ink. And I think, honestly, that's one of these things where the curve is moving very quickly, and I think there's a very significant first mover advantage for brands to kind of seize the day, you know, and really own that space. You know, I think for a lot of us where there's copycat brands, or in the case of ink, remanufacturers, refills, the ability for HP to be out in front of it and to own that experience from end to end is good, because we can deliver on a customer experience probably better than anybody else because we're the brand and we get it. We get the customers, we get their pain points, we get the pleasure that they get, you know, from their kids printing something on the computer and then putting it on the fridge. You know, we get it. I get it. I spend way too much money on ink, personally.
I think it's about the reason why that's going to be successful is because you take out all the friction. And I think, of course, with my company, I think that's where everything is headed. So I think the future of e-commerce will be the next evolution, let me put it that way, will be, we started off in brick and mortar, then of course we had online, you could shop online. We all know what that did. And I think the next evolution, it will take a couple of years, of course, will be the fact that you can just, everything you see and read about, either through voice, but also just add to cart on the product that you see online. So I think there's what we've seen from our data, there's definitely, it's simple. Like every step you take out, conversion goes up. So, and with voice, what you just said, you want some ink? Yes, please. It's the same thing. So good. Yeah.
What about sort of in your world, in this conversational commerce, does that not lend itself very nicely to voice interaction?
I think it would if it was combined with AR, because I think there's still an element of needing to visualize what it is you're getting brought to as a recommendation. I think it wouldn't necessarily work so well if it was simply question answer session and then, oh, you should buy this, and then there's not really any context in terms of being able to visualize that. So I mean, Sri mentioned it, where having the glasses on while talking and the interaction between the two technologies could work potentially. I mean, I feel like it's a long way off, but yeah, could be interesting if we get there.
Okay, any other last questions from the audience? I don't think we have any here as well. Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks to the panelists. Hope you've enjoyed it.